We're live.
Morning, everybody. My name is Miles Randall from TEAAM Medical.
And I'm Jordan Lawrence with TEAAM Medical as well.
And in the background, we got Dr. Barton Thiessen, just over in the corner there.
Hey guys.
Just do a quick introduction of myself and the crew here, and then we'll talk about the program. I'm an advanced life support paramedic. Been a paramedic for 21 years. I've been doing search and rescue for 27 years, which makes me sound pretty old. And a post-ski patroller at Whistler Blackcomb for 15 years. 2.5 years ago, a buddy and I were sitting at a coffee shop having a discussion about a gap in pre-hospital care in the province of British Columbia in Canada. And we recognized that there was a gap in the provision of pre-hospital advanced life support in austere settings. A year and a half later, we launched a program called TEAAM, which stands for Technical Evacuation Advanced Aeromedical. We're a brand new organization, just started recently as an official organization, and we actually mirror the findings of a report that was released about the same time as we started our organization, from the BC Forest Safety Ombudsman Roger Harris, that actually identified the same gaps in pre-hospital care in austere settings in our province. So from that report, we've been able to work quite closely with industry and charities and others to be able to build our program. And today we're happy to say that we're officially launched just a short time ago and are ready to respond. We've had a huge amount of support from donors such as ZOLL. They've been a huge help to us, an amazing amount of support. Kim Small, Terry Kehoe, and Brooke and the crew from ZOLL have been fantastic. We've got a ton of support from an organization called TB Vets, or Tuberculosis Vets, which is a Canadian charity organization that focuses on respiratory conditions and is a huge supporter for a number of different programs across the province in Canada. We've also had support from Interjects, Western Forestry Contractors Association, a ton of other industry supporters, as well as Halmatro, KGC Tools, and other providers of amazing equipment. And Dr. Thiessen will talk later about Clarius Mobile Health and the ultrasound that they've donated to us. Our other biggest collaborator is Blackcomb Helicopters, and as you see here, we are sitting in front of an amazing aircraft. It's an EC-135 T2 Plus, which gives us a huge amount of capability. As you can see above us, we've got Goodrich hoist, which allows us to access patients in just about any terrain. We've got a 300-foot line length on this and can carry up to 450-pound payload, although it maxes out at 600 pounds. I'm a pretty big dude, but myself and a patient is no problem for this hoist at all. Based out of Squamish, British Columbia, we actually have a huge range. We can cover 2 hours and 20 minutes without a flight time without having to refuel, so we can cover a huge portion of the province from this base, and we've got future plans to cover the rest of the province with a total of 5 bases. Jordan, is there anything you want to talk about?
Just echoing some of the stuff you said about Blackcomb Helicopters. If we probably wouldn't be where we are right now, how fast we've become this entity without their support. It's been unwavering and just absolutely amazing. So a huge thanks to Blackcomb Helicopters.
Awesome.
We got any questions coming?
How does the patronage program work?
So we modeled our patronage program after some partners that we have in Europe. When we started this program, we actually were able to visit Air Zermatt, Air Glacier, and Rega in Switzerland, as well as other organizations in the States. And we've had support for Australia also. The Swiss system, they have a patronage that allows you to make one payment per year to become a patron. There's a family rate and an individual rate, and we're working with an industrial worker rate, and that allows you to use us on the emergency response plan. So the patronage works quite well. Initially, as we're brand new, the patronage fund is building, so initially there will be some cost afforded when we respond. However, once the patronage fund is large enough, then the intention is that there will be no cost to the end user.
So ultimately, the entire industry across our response areas are funding as a big cooperative, and they, we can show up multiple times in a year to one agency, and they won't get a bill because it's been front loaded by all the patronages. But
You'll have to excuse us. It's the hottest day of the year here, and we're in a cooking hot hangar, so it's a little bit warm here. But. Any other questions coming up?
How long have you guys been in rescue service?
27 years for myself. 21 as a paramedic, 27 in search and rescue, and again 15 years as a pro ski patroller. Jordan's even older than I am.
I don't look at those. I've been a paramedic for a little over 22 years with BC Emergency Health Services. In the fire service where I started, coming up to 29 years. It's hard to believe. And as well, I've been with the search and rescue in Squamish for 4 to 5 years. That's about my background. I did a little stint with the RCMP auxiliary, but I don't think that really helps too much in this environment.
When we look at all of our other air crew, for example, Dr. Thiessen or Barton in the background here, how long have you been in the business?
Yeah, I mean, pro patrol since early 90s, and Mountain Dog, once I finished my medical training, so that's been 15 years now.
Some of our air crew have got more than 35 years of experience, and others have 5 years of experience, so a varied degree of backgrounds for sure.
And usually with our scheduling, we put somebody that's maybe a little on the lower side of experience with somebody who's on the higher side, so it kind of evens out and they augment each other. Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Why did you guys choose the auto pulse?
The AutoPulse is it's actually an excellent tool for what we do. Although on the ambulance I used to work on the ground ambulance, we used a Lucas. When we brought the AutoPulse into the austere setting, particularly in mountain rescue or helicopter rescue, the AutoPulse is a much more effective tool. The example we use here is when we bring somebody up on the hoist and the AutoPulse is working away, doing its pump and blow. To bring the patient inside the aircraft, we actually have to tilt the patient a little bit. And with other devices, unfortunately, that tilt can become problematic and dislodge the device. And we found that with the AutoPulse, I've only had it move once while in flight on a long line. And the sensors actually alerted us that the patient had moved and needed realignment, and we were able to realign the patient before there was any iatrogenic trauma or missed compressions. So the AutoPulse is the obvious tool for us in that sense. The other reason is that if we were to take a look inside this aircraft, there's a fairly large avionics pod that lines up with the patient's thighs and down. And so if we're going to use the gull wings to extricate the patient out of the aircraft, we actually wouldn't be able to do that with a Lucas device or another device like that. We can with the AutoPulse because there's no extruding tower on the top of the patient.
Yeah, there's like 3 to 4 inches of base with just the patient on top of it, so it's very minimal going in, and that's a huge one for us to be able to gain access into the machine while we're in flight from the hoist with the patient going into the side in this bag that I can't really see right now, but we'll see it later. And if you want to just pan down to the AutoPulse, comes in a beautiful carry case that we can put on our back while we're winching down so as not to have it flying around in the air. It just opens up, and this is a relatively new add-on from ZOLL, which is, I think it supplements this amazingly. You open it up, and that's where the patient lays in. For people that haven't seen it before, this is the key part. This is the life band that goes over top of the chest, and it does it does perfect CPR, amazing compressions, and it puts it over a wider area of surface. making it more efficient push on the chest. And then you strap them in with the straps. It's a simple push a button, and this is sized, and it does, like I said, perfect CPR for an hour per battery. We have 3 batteries, so 3 hours of CPR. Hopefully we're not doing that, but we can if we need be. And then if all else fails, we can just go right back to old-fashioned CPR with our hands. But yeah, the battery just pulls out, we shove a new one in, and it continues on. The case is an actual carrying device while they're in it, so you can pack them in adverse terrain. The knees can be bent. You don't have to be on a big board, because this is the back base. Yeah, absolutely amazing device. We wouldn't use anything else, and ZOLL has been really good with us getting us.
We actually also consider the device not only good for maintaining chest compressions in environments where manual chest compressions won't work, so transport, hoisting, other things like that. It's also a rescuer safety concern that we have, that doing CPR while with a patient manually can put us at risk of injury when we're heading down a trail or logging slash or working through an industrial site. And so being able to have this giving us continuous chest compressions just makes it much safer and more efficient also. So a much safer tool.
Oh yeah, that's an amazing key point. Working, I worked in the logging industry for 13 years as a machine operator, and out in where all the felled trees are laying all over the place. If you needed to get the person out of there and they went into cardiac arrest, it'd just be mayhem. Like, you'd move them, but you can't do CPR while you're moving them, and if you're not doing CPR, you're losing serious. It's just all bad. And this allows us to do hands-free resuscitation. We have the equipment, whether it be a ventilator or an oxylator, hooked up with this, and we can move that person and complete resuscitation hands off, just monitoring it, pushing drugs as needed. So yeah, it's an amazing tool. Highly recommend it to any SAR teams or anybody that's in the austere environment. It's great. Fire departments like Rialto Fire Department are using it amazingly. They're bringing up the survival rates like you wouldn't believe, and this is one of the tools that they use to gain that.
One of the things I'll just point out with it, in the hoisting environment, we've definitely learned that one downside to the autopulse that we are aware of is when we're on a hoist, if we actually hang the autopulse below us on a tether, it does tend to catch wind and like to spin a little bit. So we always wear it as a backpack when we're being hoisted down to the deep side and hoisted back up. So, you ever thought of a career in being a flight attendant?
Or Vanna White. Except I'm not anywhere as good looking as her.
That depends on who you talk to.
That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's one of the pieces that definitely helps us, and it also makes us stand apart too. That this device is, we wouldn't be without it.
Any other questions?
How long did it take you to get the program up and running?
From inception to launch, a little bit more than a year and a half. Took a heck of a lot of effort. We have some very understanding families.
And it still does. We even have to bring it to our employees' attention all the time that when it seems like there's not much going on behind the scenes, it's non-stop. Right into the night, all day. There's always networking and contacting industry partners and potential clients and government. And it's a lot of work, but it's so worth it.
Even 10 minutes before this live event, we were in meetings that we didn't know we were going to have. So.
Yeah. So I think a year and a half for from ground to operation is fairly impressive.
I recently read an article about a similar service in England that took 12 years to come to fruition from inception to launch. So pretty humbled that we've been able to do it in the short amount of time that we have.
And I think one of the reasons why it's gone that quick is the people and organizations that we have aligned ourselves, have had join our board of directors, been just amazing high-end people that can get things done, have the connections, and if we didn't have that and we were trying to do things on the low level, I think it would have taken a lot longer. But definitely the supporters, the big ones of, yeah, we wouldn't be where we are without them.
How does TEAM benefit citizens of BC? What niche do you fulfill within the existing HEMS and SAR organizations in BC?
Good question. That's a good question. We can be of assistance to HEMS and SAR if they choose to request us. However, the niche that we're currently filling is more industry focused. The gap that was identified in the Forest Safety Ombudsman's report was quite clear about a huge gap in industry coverage, and that's where our primary focus is. But again, we definitely want to be the good guy and help out anybody that needs our help. And so if SAR or the Provincial Ambulance Service requests our help, or the Canadian Forces also, we're happy to respond.
And someone is wondering, is that the R series next to you?
That is the X series monitor beside us, the newest version from ZOLL. As you can see, a nice normal sinus rhythm going there. Everybody's happy. Does all the diagnostic stuff that we need it to do. It's compact. I believe it's roughly 14 pounds. The competitors to be unnamed that we use in our job at BC Ambulance, about 3,000 pounds. As my arm feels like it. It's probably about 40 to 45 pounds. So it's a massive difference. Cool stuff right up into like see-through CPR. Yeah, just
Temp probes, you name it.
yeah, totally. Respiration rate.
You can see here that we've also attached a piece of cord and a carabiner so we can actually hoist with that inside the webbing for the aerial rescue platform and be able to treat the patient, do diagnostics, whatever we need while we're in flight, mid-hoist, or on a long line.
And you'll see this in action in both our videos that are at that are our website at team.ca. It's been amazing when we're having to go into some very adverse areas. Walking in potentially, the last thing we need is more heavy equipment. So something that's compact and that does everything we need. It's amazing. So.
How many people are on a rescue at one time?
It depends on the mission requirements of the rescue. So, for example, right now on crew, Jordan and Barton are on the air crew today. Jeff in the background is our pilot, chief pilot, and then we'll have a hoist operator. So at this point, there'll be pilot, hoist operator, and medical air crew. If there's an auto extrication, for example, that's required, Jordan is one of our key auto-ex guys, so Jordan can be the tech rescue specialist as well as paramedic. But there may be times where we need to add extra crew. For example, if we're doing something in mountainous terrain for our safety, we'll bring one of our ACMG, IFMGA guides. We've got a cadre of some of the best mountain guides in Canada. They're part of our crew also. Or our swiftwater rescue techs or auto-ex techs might be added to the mix. They may come in a different aircraft, or they may in this aircraft if we've got space with it.
So as we grow, most likely the airframe or the helicopter will grow. We will get bigger ones to be able to maybe bring all those people in one shot. But thankfully, with having such a good carrier that we are with Blackcomb Helicopters, they own 21 helicopters, I believe. So there's usually, at the best of times, there's usually one available that can come in addition to this to bring extra equipment, extra people.
Yeah, the amazing thing with Blackcomb Helicopters is they have so many aircraft and so many bases that we can draw from a pretty large pool. And the example is right here today, we've got 3 aircraft sitting here that we can use for different mission types. As well as at the Whistler base, there's probably 5 aircraft, I'm guessing, Jeff?
Yeah.
And then there's multiple other bases close by that we can draw from. So we have a small Air Force here that we can utilize when we need.
And with the 5 bases that they have, it makes our the distance that we can go that much better, because we can stop part way, get fuel on a get a quick refill, and carry on, and then same thing with coming back. So it's definitely nice having being aligned with the outfit that's so well developed. We've been 28 years they've been going with just an absolute amazing safety record. They're just so efficient. Like I said, we wouldn't be here without them.
Sorry, a moment ago for being rude and checking my cell phone. I'm the Air Ops manager today, and I was getting a text, but it was from Kim Small, the regional ZOLL rep. Hey Kim, Kim's been an amazing support to us, so she couldn't be here today, but thank you for your text of support, and thank you for everything you do for us. You're amazing.
Yeah, if there's ever anything we need, a spare auto pulse or to do a demo or something like that, Kim and the gang have just been amazing. It's immediately where do you want it, when do you need it? So a huge.
How many miles or kilometers do you guys travel out?
Jeff, do you want to answer that question? Come on in the picture, Jeff. Jeff's a good friend of ours, but he's also the chief pilot for Blackcomb Helicopters. Don't bug him about his t-shirt. It's Air Glacier from Switzerland. So.
Range on this aircraft, 2 hours of fuel, and we can do about 130 knots, so 260 nautical miles before we need to get gas. So that would be the range to the next fuel stop. Obviously, that's a full load of fuel, and depending on the load we have on board, you may have to go with a little bit less fuel just to keep within the weight and balance limitations of the aircraft. But this aircraft is a particularly quick aircraft once it gets going, especially if we decide to take some of the things that are hanging off the front, like the cargo mirrors, and if we didn't need the low beam, and we could take that off, then it moves even quicker. So that's kind of the operational range, but again, with airports and bases, the ability to stop and quickly load fuel and keep moving gives it a range that can be much greater than that. Fuel stop would take a little less than 5 or 10 minutes. You could be down, shut down, and get the fuel in the aircraft and get going.
And that's where we see working with our industry patrons is that while we're accessing the patient and dealing with that, we've got our air crew, whether it be Jeff or whoever, refueling, and it can be done by the industry partners can have fuel, helipad, that kind of stuff all ready to go, and we know that in advance because they've given us all the information we need, and that speeds up things where maybe we needed fuel, like no matter what, where we're going to land, we need fuel, and they supply that and ready to go, and just speeds up the patient care so we don't have to go looking for fuel after we take off. So yeah, big partnership with everybody.
So why is a hoist-capable helicopter different than a fixed-line one?
I think the primary advantage is the ability to deploy. You can go fly overhead whenever you arrive on a scene. If it's not directly accessible, with being able to land beside it, being able to fly overhead, evaluate what's going on, and then make a decision, and then get somebody going to the scene without having to land and hook up the long line, which is you would do with the fixed line. You'd have to land, get all that long line out. You need to hook it and get everything prepared. With the hoist, you can be preparing stuff along the way. You can be overhead. You can get as much information as you need flying overhead, make a decision, get somebody on the hoist cable and get them down to the scene. So it's a difficult scene to access in terms of you can't actually just land beside it and walk over to whatever's going on. Then the hoist is a rapid insertion tool, and then on the back end of that, once everything is, once the on-scene treatments happen and the person is ready to go, the ability to get somebody into the aircraft to retract the cable, stow everything, and just fly directly to wherever you need to get to your next level of treatment. That can happen quickly again, where if you have the fixed line, again, once we pulled somebody out, we need to put them down, we need to land, we need to gather the long line, we need to load the patients, we need to get everybody in the aircraft and then get going. So,
And that may mean a whole nother helicopter coming that's already rigged for medevac to work in conjunction with that, and now that's potentially 2 helicopters that are being used.
yeah,
In,
it's a
in
couple-
my experience, fixed line is an extremely effective tool for rapid technical rescue. However, it takes a lot of time with rigging and de-rigging afterward. And if there's a injured patient involved, it takes usually a second helicopter or a different system to be able to get the patient moved. But with aeromedical focus like ours, the ability to extricate a patient and put them inside the aircraft much more rapidly, it means faster treatment times, faster transport times, and considerably less helicopters required. So it makes a big difference in patient care and cost.
I think another contrast would be, fixed line fixed line systems tend to have a greater lifting weight. So, we can lift 450, 500 pounds on the hoist. That's a limitation. So really, you're looking at a rescuer and a patient at that point. But if you got into a situation where you needed to move larger volumes of people, gondola rescues is a good example. We're taking one person out of the cabin at a time with a hoist. It would take a long time, but if I'm able to clip onto 5 people and pull 5 people out of a gondola and take them a broken down gondola system and take them somewhere safe, then a fixed line system has that weight advantage. So that's some of the other differences between a fixed line and a hoist. But for the mission the team has, the hoist is a great tool for getting in quickly and getting out quickly. There potentially are situations where a fixed line might be a better tool, but we've also got that capability as well.
Yeah. And I think it's fast too. It's like approximately 250 feet in a minute on the hoist. You can come down. So if you're down 100 feet from the ground, you're like under 30 seconds to get that person up to the machine and into the machine.
Where do you deliver your patients?
That totally depends on the situation. We've had an agreement with the local paramedics union that we obviously want to respect their boundaries, and so depending on the patient and some conference calling with the provincial air ambulance authority, we may land at the closest ground ambulance. If the patient's injury severity is different than that, we may meet a provincial air ambulance, or with their permission we may transport to a different hospital.
Is it difficult to be in a helicopter and use the X series?
Not at all. I haven't had any issues with it, whether it's in the aircraft or on the line outside of the aircraft. The X series is a really reliable monitor, kind of bulletproof, and so yeah, I've had nothing but positive experiences with it. The paper feed comes out a slightly odd place, so sometimes it catches some wind coming out of the top, but other than that, it's a great tool.
What sort of rescue operations does TEAM undertake? Heavy rescues, etc.?
Do you want to talk to that?
Yeah, with the Rescue Specialist Program right now, we'll be doing the ability to do auto extrication, machine extrication. So if we go to, let's do an example of a forestry, like silviculture pickup, going to do tree planting, and it goes off the road in a really remote area. There's no fire department, there's no SAR, and nobody to extricate them, and they're stuck. Even if it's just simple, the door's jammed, they cannot get out, their injuries are not allowing them to crawl out. They're now in a bad place. So we have the capability to fly there, hoist down, land, use a battery-operated Homatro combi tool, recip saws, minimal tool payload for now. So we can do that. If it gets into a really big rescue, that's something that we're going to have to, with a lot of equipment and a lot of manpower. That's something that we would need industry partners to help us with. We plan on building our rescue specialist program into a lot more robust than it is now. You know, walk before you run. We've had talks with Comatro about building like a pod that you can load full of equipment, and it can be slung there by another helicopter. Open it up, and now you have basically a rescue truck that you can access. And like as Miles mentioned earlier, we can bring more people if needed. And then we've got swiftwater rescue people to do it would be a very precise rescue. We're not going to be doing stuff that search and rescue does with a lot of people and doing like down a river. But if we had to pluck somebody out of like a industrial, like a mine pond or something, and nobody else could do it, we'd have the capability and do it safely. But for the most part, big rescue stuff, whether it be mine rescue, that kind of stuff, they will be doing the rescue part of it, and we will come in and take over the patient care. We're purely patient care driven with some rescue capabilities as well.
How many miles is the safe landing area?
Sure.
I'm sure I understand that question, the safe landing area.
You can speak to the size of the landing zone.
Yeah, we can take this aircraft into some fairly small places. We just need to, 6, 7, 10 feet around what's that, the diameter of the main rotor blades, 35 feet plus your safety margin. So it's a compact aircraft that way. It's 20 inches. So it's got redundancy there. If there's we have some kind of problem with an engine, set one. It's really helpful for us to either escape or be able to land safely. Tail rotor, this aircraft's also a Fenestron tail rotor, which is shrouded tail rotor, so that way you get more protection on that than sort of a traditional tail rotor, and so that also provides a safety margin.
Taylor, you do amazing work, but
A safety margin when we're working in sort of remote.
The other nice thing about this being hoist capable, if we don't have to, or if we can't, we don't need to land. We can hoist down all the people, hoist back up, and carry on. It's very versatile.
How do people contact you in an emergency?
We have a direct number that either agencies or patrons can contact us with. So when someone signs up for a patronage, part of the package they'll receive will provide them with the contact information to call us direct. And then we have 3 air ops coordinators that are on at any given time that will answer that phone if you call for help.
What special medical equipment do you use?
Wow. Where do we start? We've
Covered the X series.
got the X series cardiac monitor. We talked about the auto pulse here. We use an EMV plus ventilator inside the aircraft, an oscillator, which is our transport medium vent to get us from the scene up to the aircraft, whether it's hand bombing someone or carrying someone or hoisting someone. Point of care ultrasound. Barton, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, why don't we get him in here to show a little demo of what we use?
And why don't you introduce yourself, Barton, since we talked a little bit about you, but you've just been a voice in the background.
Yeah, sure, I'll jump in. Yeah, my name's Barton. I'm an anesthesiologist and professor at Memorial University, and joined up with TEAAM since the fall, basically, having known Miles from a ski patrolling background for quite some time. And yeah, and this is one of those sort of dreams that I've had as well, and fully support this group, this team doing what they do. I just want to mention one quick thing. Obviously, as an anesthesiologist, I work with monitors day in, day out in the operating room, as well as ultrasound's a big part of my practice. But the first time I used the X series was in a mountain rescue patient was quite ill, required intubation, and this thing was fantastic. We were able to use it right away. The waveform capnography was ideal in identifying that we captured the airway appropriately. The monitors. Unfortunately, with the weather changing, we weren't able to use a helicopter to get back out, so we had to extricate this patient on land. But we had a smaller rescue person able to straddle the patient, ventilate the patient on the way down, and I was able to ski alongside, essentially like I was in my operating room, watching the monitor, watching the non-invasive blood pressure cuff cycle, watching the capnography go, and to be able to monitor a patient like that in that sort of setting demonstrates some of these abilities. It made me feel almost as comfortable as if I was in my operating room. But some of the other equipment that we do use is portable handheld ultrasound, which streams directly to an iPad or a phone. And the ability to use this in the field, in the snow, in the rain, in the wind, has been quite fantastic. Rule out pneumothoraces, quick look at the chest. You can rule out any sort of acute abdominal bleeding with a very quick scan. Of course, you need to expose the patient a little bit, but that can be done very, very quickly and really give us direction in terms of triage as well as management of these patients, whether they need fluids, whether they need surgical centers, and it's another one of those tools that allows us to do this type of work in the settings that we're looking at. We just have a dummy up here, so there's not really anything live that I can show right now. But again, the tools, technology, autopulse. Yeah, maybe you could demonstrate on the ground that I could do just as good compressions as when you're hanging from the side of a helicopter or stuck in the back of this thing. All these tools is invaluable for sure. Yeah. At an airport, so there's going to be some noise. The equipment or monitors or tools that we use. But I guess so. Further to that, this little light monitor, very portable, has allowed us to be quite proactive with our treatments, and yet still have the patient monitored exactly the same way a patient would be monitored in an emergency room, in a hospital, in the operating room, or in the back of an ambulance. And that just allows us to do this advanced medical care and still have a patient monitored.
Some other equipment we use, we've definitely subscribed to vacuum spine boards as opposed to clamshells and spine boards for a number of reasons. Obviously, all the science behind spine boards being a dirty word, for one, and for two, the hypothermia management that we can actually nip in the bud with vacuum spine boards is huge. So patient comfort, improved patient outcomes, less downside. And the fact that we can manage hypothermia so well with just a tool that does a bunch of other things is huge for us. And it's rigid enough that we can hoist with it. We don't need a board for that. I've done rescues in other agencies where keeping the patient sitting for pelvic fractures and other things like that would have been problematic with either a clamshell or scoop stretcher or a spine board. And using the vacuum spine board to do that has been a huge plus for us. So we primarily use the vacuum spine board, and we'll use it in conjunction with what we call an ARP, or aerial rescue platform, which is like our sleeping bag / harness that we use to hoist patients with. And we use both of those things for hypothermia management. We're huge on hypothermia management with TEAAM, and so being able to use those tools for cross purposes and have the upside of using it for hypothermia management is a big thing for us. So the limited space and weight that we have with small aircraft means that we need to have tools that we can use either for a bunch of different things, or they have to be really light, and using those tools together does a huge amount of good. Taylor, did you disconnect it so that you could show the vacuum spine board?
Mm-hmm, yeah. So we're gonna go
Head inside the aircraft.
for a walk around.
So this is the inside of the DC-135. Ample room. Of course, we always want more room for more rescuers, more room to work on the patient. As you can see here, it has a stretcher system that looks very much like a number 9 front of stretcher that a lot of the EMS folks will be used to seeing. It's special though for the approved by Transport Canada for this machine only. It locks into place here, and we use an aerial rescue platform, which is a very expensive big red bag, and that goes over inside. You can see that they have a vacuum spine board that is it's not an air like an air splint. It's you actually suck the air out and it collapses around the patient, and it becomes very rigid and is amazing because it conforms to as we know, our spine isn't flat like a spine board. It's got a bend to it, so all of it conforms to the patient, which makes it much more comfortable and better for a long time in the packaging. And then of course we would have our monitors and vent and all that stuff hooked up, hanging in here. If we want to go around to the back side, we can see how we can load in that way as well. So as you can see from, it's a great shot. As you can see, the 135 has gull wing doors. They both open up, giving us access. Now this, as you can see, it looks like it's fairly high. We're on a trolley so that we can move the aircraft in and out. So it would actually be this much lower, and we would be able to, with multiple people load, or 2 people at least, load onto here and put all our gear back in here, close it up and take off. So we have multiple ways of loading the patient. We can do it straight off the hoist up and into the side, like of the last view, or we can take that person still on the skid, land, and then unhook, do further packaging, and up into the back. I guess while we're here, we could do a quick shot of just a couple of the tools we use on the rapid takeoff. If there's any sort of vehicle or machinery involved, it's expanding. This is just our quick loadout. So there we have a combi tool from Homatro, and that's our main tool for gaining access through doors, cutting. So it's Homatro has donated this as a temporary, and we'll be going to the newer Evo Series 3. So it's in its spread mode. If you have to open a door, or if you need to cut through a post, in here is the cutting. Like I said, it's all on battery system, so it makes it a little bit more, well, it's portable, right? We don't have to have a pump and hoses, that kind of stuff. And as well, we're using the Milwaukee recip saw to cut in where we won't have access with this. And further tools and stuff. We're just not going to bore you with all the other stuff. But that pretty much sums up most of it. If there isn't any more questions.
I'll just show you. This is our jump kit here. A lot of the tools that we use are quite different than you would see on a regular ambulance, and so the example is we still use traction splints. I'm a firm believer still, and the splints that you'll see on a regular ambulance in our jurisdiction, the traction splint would be about 4 times the size of this. This is a Slishman traction splint, so it's considerably smaller. The huge benefit of this not only is weight and application time. You put it on a patient in 30 seconds, and you don't have an examiner looking over you. with all the different steps that you've done.
Yeah.
The other nice thing about it is it doesn't extend past the end of the foot, which allows us to easily put someone inside the aircraft with one of these on, which if we used a different type of splint that extends past the end of the foot, that would be a problem. This kit here has all of our different trauma management supplies and medical management supplies. So we've got you can imagine working with anesthesiologists, they like to have their pharmacopoeia, I kind of do too. So we've got a fairly large drug module in here with every kind of medication that you can imagine. And obviously we stay within our scope of practice, but the scope of this organization, because of the different types of people that we have involved, is quite huge. We've got 2 different types of pelvic binder, in part because I like the 2 different styles. We've got a T-pod, which is rapid administration, easy transfer of pressure across the pelvis, and can be put in place by one person. But I also like the SAM pelvic binder and junctional tourniquet. Because we do industrial work, there is the chance of junctional hemorrhage, and so the junctional tourniquet makes a huge difference with outcomes that way. Hemostatic dressings, wound packing, tranexamic acid, all sorts of different things that are inside this kit. And again, video laryngoscopy, surgical airways, tracheal intubation. There's a ton of different stuff that fits in this bag. You wouldn't want to be a 100-pound person carrying this thing, but it's definitely a useful kit with a ton of gear in there. And obviously, because half of our guys are ski patrollers, there's always a carabiner with electric tape attached. A little inside joke for ski patrollers out there.
And as a new organization, we're definitely not against trying different modes of carrying our equipment. So if there's any sponsors out there that'd be interested in helping us out with that, we're definitely willing to look at some different carrying bags.
Sorry about all the background noise, by the way. It's an active airfield, so Jordan cranked up the Matro tool. That was an aircraft that was starting up, not the Matro, so it's a lot quieter. Awesome. Any other questions?
Yeah, there is. What is your crew training regime and how are you certified in various capabilities?
So we do a number of different types of training. So, for example, our aircraft crash survival training is done in-house with one of our retired search and rescue technicians from the Canadian Forces. Swiftwater rescue training is done from an outside agency, obviously, that certifies. All of our pre-existing medical training comes from an outside agency. We take a pre-hospital and retrieval medicine course from an outside agency. AutoX is done both from an outside agency and some in-house. Our critical incident stress management is being done from an outside agency. So yeah, all of our training comes from all sorts of different sources. Some is in-house, some is external.
And everybody that is medical air crew has a license through British Columbia. We don't use anybody that's from out of province that doesn't have a current BC ambulance license. No, a BC EMA licensing branch license.
Or physicians and nurses.
Oh, physicians and nurses, correct.
Yeah.
Which are licensed to work here.
Yeah.
And that's,
It looks like yeah, we're just about at an hour here.
okay.
So maybe we'll answer one more question before we wrap it up. Is there one more popping up there, Jordan? Or Taylor?
Just trying to read it. Landing zone ideal is 100 feet by 100 feet. 911 dispatch contacts, life flight, or other rescue agency that are needed to rescue someone?
Don't totally understand that question, so maybe we'll skip to another one. Any more? No? Okay. Well, firstly, I just want to say thank you to everyone that's out there watching us, and hopefully we gave you some interesting information and told you a little bit about our story. Thank you for supporting our dream. It's been an amazing journey so far, and really looking looking forward to what we can do for the people of BC in the future. Huge thank you to ZOLL for putting this on and supporting us. Kim Small, again, the regional manager, has been incredible for us, and then introducing us to ZOLL head office. Those guys have been great, outstanding actually, and so yeah, our relationship with ZOLL has been great. Big thank you to our donors, again, the huge donors to talk about Blackcomb Helicopters, TB Vets, KGC Tools, Amatro, Clarius Mobile Health, who else? There's tons. Interjex.
Yeah, Interjex, right?
Clean Energy BC, Western Forestry Contractors Association, Truck Loggers of BC. So yeah, tons of people out there that are supporting us. Thank you very much for all of your support. You are definitely making a difference in BC.
Absolutely. And thanks for everybody that came out today to help us, Jeff and Barton and Taylor, doing the hard job there with the filming. If you want to see further stuff regarding TEAM, please feel free to check us out at TEAM HEMS, and that's TEAAMHEMS. We're on Instagram and YouTube. Always got pictures of helicopters and training and all kinds of cool stuff. Obviously, if you're watching this, you like it, so go check that out. And our website as well is team.ca, and yeah, you can also see some of our stuff at zoll.com, I believe, as well as all of their information on there as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching.
Thanks, guys.